Welcome back to the Edmonds School District Automotive Training Center. This is Hot Rod High School. In today's episode, we're going to be going through the process of removing and reinstalling a clutch and a pressure plate. So coveralls on, safety glasses on. Let's get to work. So step one, typically the transmission would still be attached here, but we've made it a little bit easier on ourselves. We're going to remove all of the bell housing bolts around the outside of the bell housing. So go ahead and take your wrench and just go through and loosen each one of those bolts. Take them out. Make sure that when you take out the last one that you have a hand on that bell housing, because it's heavy and you wouldn't want it to fall on your foot. Okay, now we'll get that last bolt out. Just take and pull this bell housing off. Has a couple of dowels that it gets stuck to there. Get that bell housing off and out of the way. And now you can see our pressure plate and clutch assembly down in there. One thing to keep in mind, we have this nice little alignment dowel that goes through here. And that is a handy little tool. Going to help keep our clutch in place and completely aligned for when we go through. And it's basically impossible to get that clutch to be aligned correctly without a tool like that. For when you're going through and reinstalling the input shaft on the transmission, just won't go through unless that thing is perfectly aligned. So next we're going to go through and remove all of our pressure plate bolts from around the outside of the pressure plate. So just go through and kind of the same process, loosen them all up, and then take them out one by one. We'll make sure to hold on to that pressure plate as we get the last bolt out. Okay, we've gotten almost all the bolts out so far, and the last one's nice and loose. So we're just going to take and remove this last bolt right here. And there we have it. The pressure plate is off and out of the way. And you can see how there was a total of 6 bolts holding this particular pressure plate on. Okay, next item up, you take and remove our clutch assembly. And now all that's left on there is the flywheel. And so at this point, you could remove your flywheel, you can put on a new flywheel or have the flywheel resurfaced, and then put on your new clutch and pressure plate and making sure that you install it in there correctly. So it actually has writing. Don't know how well you can read it on there, but on the new clutch, it says flywheel side. So we know that that's the side that goes in toward the flywheel when we go to put it back together. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and reinstall our components. Once again, making sure to read that part that says flywheel side. So we'll put that in toward the flywheel and take and install this alignment tool in there. And we're going to put this right into the pilot bushing that's in the back of the crankshaft. So now our clutch is installed, and now we can put on our pressure plate. Put on the pressure plate, we'll take and put it in place. Want to make sure to put it on, and you can mark them for reference. We're going to go ahead and put this on the exact same bolt holes, all aligned the way that we took it off. Just thread in each one of these bolts. Then tighten them all up. When we tighten them up, we're going to be using that star pattern, kind of going crisscross with it. We'll just tighten this bolt a little bit, then this one, then move here, then over here, and back and forth and all around until we get that whole pressure plate to go in there on a nice even tightening. So now that we've gotten all of the bolts installed just finger tight, we're going to go through and start doing that final tightening sequence. Once I find my 9/16 wrench, that is. There we go. So that final tightening sequence, we'll just go a couple of turns on the top one, a couple of turns on the one across from it. We'll continue going around. Now we'll go one over, a few turns, and then we go out and across from that one. We're going to continue going through, getting each one snugged in until they're all the way cinched up. So we've gone through and done one round of them. Now we'll go start at the top one again, tighten it up a little bit more, go to the bottom one, tighten it up a little bit more until we get it all the way cinched all the way up to the flywheel. Next, we'll put that bell housing back on into place. All lined up on its dowels. We can put in our bell housing bolts and torque those all down. So now we'll just run through and tighten up all of these bell housing bolts. And that's it. Removing and reinstalling a clutch and pressure plate.